How's everybody doing today? Let's talk it out with the Greenes. I'm Norman.
I'm D.
And today we're going to be having a conversation about something that we have not had a conversation about organically, but through years of experience, we've talked about it. So today we're going to be talking about how upbringing affects your marriage / relationship. Mm-hmm. D, what you think about this?
I think that it affects the way you do things in your relationship as an adult. Like, I grew up, my mom was a single parent. It's 8 of us. So she did what she had to do, and which means most of the time she wasn't there. She was at work. So I had to watch my siblings, which means in turn, I'm like, when I get older, I'm not trying to raise my kids by myself.
Right. But see, like, that's one portion of it. That's like the smallest portion of it. Like, so for me, I grew up with a single mom. However, I grew up as the only child, and I was also the only child in 9 years. I had to make sure I had that right. I was the only child on my mom's side of the family in 9 years. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have any cousins. I didn't grow up with brothers and sisters. And my stepfather didn't come around until I was a teenager.
Well, you had cousins, but they're all older, so they felt like uncles and aunts.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So they felt like uncles and aunts they were there, but a 9 year difference, they weren't playing in the sandbox with me, unfortunately. Well, that's what that was. So the way my upbringing was compared to your upbringing could definitely bring some relationship issues in there. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I feel as though that people need to talk about more, because it actually could be the reason why you get a divorce, believe it or not, unconsciously.
I don't know. Why would you say that?
So hear me out. Let's just take it off of us for a second, because that's how we were raised, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just say, for instance, man and a woman get married, and the woman was molested.
Okay.
Right? Okay. That woman was molested. And when she was molested, the whole time now, fast forward, she's grown, she's gotten married, and maybe they did or maybe they didn't have a conversation about that. It really doesn't matter. But when they go to have sex, she unconsciously wants her husband or, boyfriend or whatever, take it all the time. That turns her on. That's what she's into.
Okay.
But because that's what she was used to. So it's an unconscious thing. It's like, you have to take this for this to feel right for me, because that's the way that it has always been for her. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a little touchy, but at the same time, I think that is realistic, because this is something that if you don't have a conversation about, right? How would you know that? Like, if there's no type of dialogue,
I don't think that would necessarily lead to a divorce, but I mean, it can raise an eyebrow, like, damn, why she always want me to take it from her? Why she can't never be on me, or, I'm
talking about ultimately, like, over time, things build up. It could actually lead to the divorce. Not just that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not just, like, all right, well, we're getting a divorce because you always want me to take it. No, that's not it. Okay. I'm talking about, like, how that could be an unconscious thought. So, and that comes up with your upbringing. Like, it's completely unconscious. And then, like, to make it a little bit lighter, and I know this is something that we went through. I grew up as the only child. You grew up with siblings. Mm-hmm. So the way I live life, or used to live in life, is completely different than the way you are used to living life.
Right.
So I'm selfish as hell by nature. Like, I'm selfish. But
I wouldn't say that you're still that way because you've grown.
Right. A little. But no, like, I'm selfish as hell. Like, but it's by nature. It's not maliciously. It's not that I don't want to share.
You know what? I'm just so happy you just said that, because when I tell you that, you argue me down.
Yeah, I'm supposed to argue you down. What I'm supposed to just say? I'm just supposed to just admit? No.
Well, you just said it, but thank you.
I did. But see, I'm selfish in a different way. Like, I have to, like, where you unconsciously share. Because that's how you were raised.
I do. I want to break bread with everybody.
I have to consciously share. Because that's not how I was raised. I didn't have to share with anyone. Mm-hmm. My mom made it as though I didn't have to share with anyone. I didn't have to, you know, and it wasn't nobody around to share with.
Right.
So it's not like, I don't think it's a bad attribute. It's just that you have to understand exactly how I was raised in order for it to work. Because if you don't understand, this is for everybody else as well.
Yeah.
And this is for anything. If you don't understand, how could you actually like me? Like, you like, yo, he don't share, he don't do nothing, but you're not going to understand me.
Right.
Because at that point,
but that goes back to, you know, when you first meet somebody, you got to have a conversation. That's all about building and getting to know that person. But
not only do you have to have that conversation, you also have to acknowledge and accept the conversation too.
Well,
Because at the end of the day, like, we can have a conversation about me being the only child, and that might be the last thing you might think of is that I'm selfish. You might not say, you might say, oh, all right, he just didn't grow up with any siblings. But you might not unpack that to say, you know what, he could have some selfish tendencies because he's not used to sharing.
Well, trust me, I unpacked that a lot because you got to think, when I first met you, I had a daughter and I didn't want her growing up like that. Mm-hmm. So it was like, yo, I don't want her to be selfish. So I make her share. I don't want her to say, this is just all mine. So, you know, it's like, let me get her friends over here to play with her so she knows how to, you know, do certain things or whatever. So when we first got together and we went out, and I don't even think we went out. We stayed on the phone for like 4 hours or something like that. I asked you so many questions because I was just I definitely did. I was just beating your brain because it's like, yo, I need to make sure this is legit. I need to make sure this guy is right. You was calling me constantly.
Cross-examination.
You was calling me constantly. We were always going out. I didn't have time for nobody else or nothing, like, outside of my family, you know, my kid. And it was like, yo, I got to make sure this is right.
It was actually damn near intrusion, but whatever.
Well, you got to make sure they right. You can't just bring somebody into your world. So I knew you was the only child. I knew
I grew up the only child.
Well, I knew you grew up the only child. I knew that you had siblings, but from your dad. So, I mean, sharing and just, you know, that willingness just to break bread with everybody, I was like, I don't know. I got to figure him out a little more. So, I mean, it's all about the conversation. It's all about taking things in. It's all about what you can deal with. And, you know, I'm just not one of those type of people that can just overlook things. So I definitely was asking you a lot of questions.
Yeah, I mean, I was asking questions too, not as much as you were, but
listen,
that's besides the point. I mean, you got to ask those questions for your security, especially, you know, if you have a daughter in it. And I guess that's a conversation about upbringing. I guess you can consider that. Because I said at first, like, we've never said, you know what, how was you up? We never really said it quite like that.
Right.
You know, just kind of like talked about it here and there and learned each other.
Like, where did you live? How did you grow up?
But
you know.
I think that you should have a conversation about it. Organic, straight up, yo, how was you up? How was you brought up? To understand each other. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that makes you incompatible. No. I'm saying to have a better understanding of each other and really critically think about how you were, like, how this person was brought up. So you'll better understand that person too.
Yeah. Because I understand you when you do certain things. I'd be like, yo, did you give me a snack?
Like absolutely not. I got my own snack.
And then you be like, I see you. You be like, babe, I'll be right back. What you want? I'm gonna go get it. And then you'll go get it real quick. And I'll be like, this.
Or nah, like, you know, like one of our things is like, you be like, it drives me crazy too. Can I have some? Yo, I can make you something real quick because you can't have none of mine. This is mine. Like, I can make you something real quick. I hate that. It's like, yo, like, I'll make you want your own, like, because this is mine. Like, mine.
Oh my God.
But, you know, that's that part right there is also the unconscious upbringing. That's the problem.
I think it also resonates, like, with people that grew up in a 2-parent household versus one parent. It's a difference. I feel like it's a big difference.
I am so glad that you said that. I'm so glad that you said that, because a 2-parent household means that they were in a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm. For the most part.
Right. So we just sat here and said that we both grew up in single-parent households for the most part. Now, like I said, shout out to my stepfather. He came in, I was about 13, I think, 12 or 13, somewhere around there, but I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. But if you and me grew up in a single family house or single parent household, how are we don't have an example of even how to treat each other as a married couple.
So I feel like we didn't have an example, but we know what we want and we know how we want to be treated. And the fact that we communicate constantly and put in the work, it makes us work.
That's very true. And I'm not saying that part's true, but what I'm saying is, like, we're talking about the upbringing, right?
Right.
And we're talking about the conversations that people should have and the things that they should take into consideration. Mm-hmm. So if you're with someone that grew up in a single family household, they have no idea. Like, I'm just going to speak for a man because I'm a man. As a man, I have no idea how to treat you. Mm-hmm. You have to literally teach me how to treat you.
Right.
And that has to be accepted on both ends of the spectrum.
Right.
Example. How am I supposed to know to send you flowers sometimes, here and there, if I never seen anyone send my mom flowers? But I'm using that for an example.
Right.
I'm just using that for an example.
Right. But that's all about learning me, and you know me. So now you get me flowers.
Exactly. Now I do. But let's just say beginning of the relationship. Let's just say some of our viewers out there, they are just getting together. Mm-hmm. That's something that you need to, one, study, because not necessarily, I use flowers for the example, not necessarily any woman is going to say, yo, you should get me flowers sometimes. Then it makes it weird that you just go and buy the flowers.
Right.
Makes it a little insensitive. But other than that, like, how am I supposed to know that? Like, I'm not supposed to know that if I never see it.
It goes back to those beginning relationships when you guys are sitting there and you're saying, so what do you like? Or
that's true. Now, I did use flowers for a reason. I used flowers for a reason because my stepfather, when he came around, Valentine's Day, birthday, all of these different things, he sent flowers. So I was like, oh, that must be the right thing to do.
Right.
He never told me that, but I picked it up. Like, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't have knew that. I wouldn't know that if he didn't.
I mean, as a single parent, I feel like you can still instill certain things in your kids.
Certain things.
Right. Like your mom, for instance, since I'm going to use you, you're a guy and your mom raised you, holding the door for her. Let her walk through the door first because she's a female, of course. Certain things like that, I'm pretty sure she showed you.
Right. She showed me. She definitely
right.
enforced chivalry. Like, she enforced it.
Right.
Like, so it was one of those things where she didn't allow me to do anything different. And I guess that's the good thing about just being raised by my mother, because it was one of those things where, you know, look, this is how you're going to treat a woman. And on the flip side, this is how a woman's going to act.
Right.
So those things were important, but she couldn't teach me how to necessarily be a husband.
Right.
That's something that I had to learn by trial and error.
Right.
Because I didn't necessarily have that example until I was a little bit older. So being a boyfriend and being a husband is two different things. It's two different worlds, two different things. So I feel as though that the upbringing affects your marriage. It can affect it. It's going to affect it negatively and positively.
It just depends on the person.
You think it depends on the person?
I think it depends on the person. Because look, while we're talking about a single parent household, think about it. If you could be raised in a 2-parent household and still turn out bad, you could see your parents fight every day. You could see your mom get beat down to the ground and feel like at the end of the day, that's what you need to do
as a man
to regulate your household.
That's true. Because, I mean, you know, I'm not necessarily saying that single parent versus two parents. I'm just saying that regardless of how it is, the upbringing can have a positive effect and a negative effect. So that right there, what you're saying is definitely the negative. Like,
because people feel like, oh, you grew up with both your mom and dad, right, you should be good. No, it don't work that way.
It don't.
It don't really work that way. If your dad beat your mom every day, and then you started seeing your mom beat on your dad back, or whatever the case may be, in your head, you're going to feel like that's love. Because that's all you ever saw.
Or how about if you're a little girl instead of a little boy, and as the little girl, you seen your dad beat up your mom every day, same situation, but now you're expecting a man to beat you up too. That's really a thing. Like, some women out here, they really expect they man to like whoop their ass, like, and that
either that or feel like it's okay,
right? Like,
either that or feel like it's okay for
this is justified
that to happen.
And believe it or not, your upbringing also, and you know, our daughter, you know, I think that her upbringing dictates the type of guys that she might be attracted to.
I feel,
or the type of, or you know, even, you know, the type of people that she's attracted to, the type of people, at least I hope, you know, but I think that also is a thing with upbringing as well, like who you're attracted to.
I just want to say, I feel like my 18-year-old daughter is dope when it comes to cutting people off. She's somewhat like her mama. She don't take no crap. The first sign, she be out. You be like, yo, are you still talking?
And that has everything. And that has everything to do with her upbringing. That has everything to do with things that she's seen in the past. Because
she be like, no, if they not treating me like
this
dad treat
next
you,
to me,
then we ain't doing that. If he not treating me like dad treat you, then they ain't it.
Which I will say, that's a high standard, boy. I gotta say, that's a high standard because I think I do pretty good. I ain't gonna lie. I think
she be like, right. No,
nah, but it. I will say this though. I just feel as though that the upbringing of how you raise your kids, just remember that is exactly how that's going to be a portrayal of how they do their relationships, how they treat women, how they treat men.
Yeah,
you know, that's going to be a thing, because if respect is not taught, how will you? Respect is not something that's necessarily in a book. So if respect is not taught, how can you expect?
Or shown.
Or how can you expect your son or your daughter to respect their spouse or respect their boyfriend, girlfriend, or even
just have respect for themselves?
Exactly. Or even demand respect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like, you know, if like, and then like I'll even say this. I'll even go this far. What about the little girl who grew up in a single family household? Or I'm sorry, I keep saying single family, single parent mom, single mother, and her mother got this dude, that dude, this dude, that dude coming in and out the house, in and out the house, in and out the house. Now, guess what you done did? Your daughter's gonna grow up and think that's okay too.
Yeah.
So she's not even gonna hold herself with any type of dignity. Like, you know what I mean? So she's gonna have this dude, that dude, this dude, that dude. And then you're gonna be like, well, and then the crazy dynamic about that is the mom gonna be like, yeah, well, why you got so many dudes running out of the house? And then the daughter is doing it unconsciously because that's what she's seen. That was her nature. That was her habitat. So, like, you even got things like that.
What about the single dads, though? Shout out to the single dads.
Yeah, so, like, first of all, I just want to say this. I couldn't fucking imagine. I'm going to put that out there. I couldn't imagine being a single dad. And yes, you're right. Shout out to them, because I couldn't imagine, especially if it was, like, a little girl, I'd be lost. But regardless of that, like, as guys, it's the exact same thing. If we have a little girl and we got chicks running in and out, we need to be discreet with that. What you think? Like, we need to be somewhat discreet with that, because I think as guys...
Even if it's a little boy, because you're still teaching him that. And while the world feels like, you know, it's okay for guys to had multiple women.
I was just about to say.
While they feel like it's okay, you still teaching your son that. You're not teaching him really how to be a man. He's going to feel like that's okay.
Oh, he learned how to be a man.
No.
He learned how to be a man. But he just...
World, you know what I'm saying. You're not really teaching him how to be a man. You teaching him how to get his rocks off, how to keep it moving. But at the end of the day, you're not instilling in him what it takes to be a good husband, a good father. You're not doing that.
But how's that single dad supposed to know how to be a good husband? Apparently, he's not a husband.
He could have been. He could have been. You don't know.
Yeah. I mean...
He could have been a divorcee, or, you know, he could just be a single father at the end of the day.
I do think that it's something to learn from men and women that's divorced. That's something that they should have all the right answers because they did everything wrong. But that's another topic for another day and another episode.
Yeah.
But I will say that I just feel as though that we have to be more cognizant as a couple, as a married couple, as a relationship. I think we have to be more cognizant of that conversation of the upbringing and how we are upbringing our kids.
Yeah.
Like how our kids are being raised.
What you do around your kids matter. Just want to say that.
It really does. It really does. Because if you have a conversation with your kids, they can like literally imitate everything mom and dad says. They can imitate all of that, and it's kind of damn scary. Like,
yeah,
it's really scary. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that part is important, and that's definitely a reason why you have to have that upbringing conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that with upbringing, do you think that that's a reason to say, look, I can't be with you because your upbringing was too toxic? Do you think that that's can you see yourself saying that?
So if I was single and I was just meeting you and you had a toxic childhood, when you say toxic, what do you mean? Like
some of the examples that we brought up, like
if you got molested, if you had
maybe molestation, maybe maybe even like a new one, like maybe I was adopted, or maybe my mom used to get beat on, anything like that, like, any type of abuse.
So, no, I think I would have still gave you the same chance that I gave you, moving forward. Unless you showed me some things that would be like, oh, wait a minute now. Yeah. You know what I mean? But if you're a really good person, genuine person, then there's no reason for me to stop talking to you.
But do you think that...
regardless of how you grew up.
But do you think that some of the people who go through these things, and this is actually my personal opinion, but I'm asking you, do you think that some of the people that go through these things, like, like women that was molested, or like, beat on, or whatever the situation might be, do you think that it's a situation where maybe they need to do like lifelong counseling because of certain actions, maybe unconsciously?
So... no, I don't feel like every woman would have to do counseling, or every man or whoever went through these things. I don't feel like they would have to do lifelong counseling, but I do feel like in the beginning, some type of help is needed.
Yeah.
Because some people, they go to counseling or they do whatever they need to do, and then it's like, okay, that's gone. Because they don't want to necessarily keep opening up old wounds, because then it's like they keep reliving it.
See, with the upbringing part, I feel as though that the reactions are more unconscious than conscious. Prime example, the whole like, I'm turned on by you taking it, but I was molested. Or I want to constantly be extremely and utterly submissive sexually because I was molested.
What is up with you with this molesting?
Because it's real.
I know it's real.
Because this is a real thing.
I know it's real.
No, this is a real thing. And I feel as though, and I mean, yeah, it's a touchy subject, but it's real. And I feel as though that a lot of women go through this, and a lot of times people be in relationships and they don't even share that they were molested.
Do that mean that you need to seek counseling so that you can share with your wife more often?
Sure. I mean, I share. Now I do. Because I've learned.
Because you've learned.
And
so some people like for instance, we're using the molestation thing. Some people, they learn. Some people, they talk about it. So let's just say if I got molested and I talk to you about it, then you would know. But then also we can have conversations and then it could be worked out.
Right. And I'm perfectly fine with that. But my whole thing is just to make sure as an individual, because there's a such thing as relationship mental health, which we talked about already, and individual mental health. You still have to be good as an individual in my eyes. Like, yeah, we can talk about it all we want, and we can be good, but that don't mean you are good. You know what I mean? That's my point. So and this could be with anything. Like, you know what I mean? It could be just like, as a man, if I watched my dad beat up on my mom on a regular basis and I'm beating up on you, I need counseling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not right. Like, you know what I mean? I need counseling.
Right.
Like, we could relate that to anything.
Yeah.
And then, like, same situation. I beat up on you, or a man beats up on a woman, you might not know that I watched that throughout my whole life.
Right.
That might not have been a conversation.
But now our boys are watching it, and now they think
it's okay.
Like,
so now you're causing a generational problem.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that what makes it where as a very important conversation is that this stuff has to come out, and some of these things aren't going to come out unless you just put somebody under the gun and say, hey, what was your childhood like? Like, you know what I mean?
That's all. When you first meet somebody, you sit down, you have a conversation, and you just talk about it. It's all about talking, communicating.
What date should they talk about?
So first date is the hee ha ha, where you work at, things like that. Maybe I want to say about like fourth date.
Fourth date?
Yeah, third or fourth date. That's how I feel.
I say y'all should be in a full-blown relationship first because she might run. That's what I say. Damn that. I'm not having that conversation fourth date. Damn that. I'm not having that conversation fourth date. That's especially fourth date. I done spent some bread. Like,
listen, ladies, fourth date, third or fourth date, you need to ask all the questions.
Fellas, first off, she said ladies fourth date. She asked me first date. First phone conversation. I'm sorry, not first date. First date was after first phone conversation. So that's when she asked me on list. I don't even know why she even pumped y'all up like that. But what I am
because the world is different now. I mean, I would say ask first date, but that's when you really starting to get to know people. They might think you crazy. You come off, start asking them all these questions. So the first date is like fun.
But I done spent my bread already, so the fourth date not gonna work.
Well, the third date, I paid for it. So what
that
you
wasn't
saying?
That wasn't the third date.
What date was that?
That was like 6, 7, 8.
It doesn't matter.
That wasn't no third date. Yeah, you might.
No, it was like the third date.
No.
Because we went to Champs. And I think who was playing? The Giants and somebody else was playing.
Yeah, it was one of those Super Bowls.
And the bill was healthy.
I remember
and
what
I pulled
happened.
out my money, and you was like, "You want to pay? Like that's
all to your upbringing, boo. See that? You wasn't selfish in that. You see that? You see how that worked? See how that worked?
Listen,
that was awesome.
Your upbringing is everything. I know that. You might not want to share everything that you went through, but it's important, especially if you feel in a person or if you feel like this is going to turn into a relationship. You need to say what it is and how you feel, or ask the other person, whether it's female, male, whoever you're talking to, about their upbringing, what they had going on, what they got going on. You need to know what's going on with that other person. You can't just bring somebody into your world and not know how things work for them. Because it might not turn out right. How do you feel?
Fellas, sisters, have the conversation about your spouses or your relationship, whoever you're in a relationship with. Have the conversation about that person's upbringing.
Yeah.
Make it a priority to have that conversation. Because just so you can understand and learn is detrimental.
Yeah.
Until next time.
See you guys.